Ms. Pam Glorioso is the Chief Administrative Officer for Bossier City. Hey, Ms. Pam, welcome to KEEL. How you doing this morning?
Doing fine. How you doing, Robert, this morning?
Good, Pam. Well, we woke to a report today that's just breaking that advises state leaders, economic development leaders, the Gaming Control Board, that the two of the boats in Bossier, Diamond Jacks and Boomtown, should be relocated. I know I kind of took you by surprise in texting you that. Your first reaction?
Well, I listened to Mr. Jones's comments on your show earlier, and I agree. Those are business decisions that the owners of those two casinos will be needing to make. Of course, there's no surprise. Diamond Jacks, Boomtown, it has a low market turnout. We know, and it's obvious that we are experiencing a low market in the Shreveport-Bossier area. Whether these boats can relocate into other areas of the state, that's to be determined. As from the city standpoint, we would always be concerned with what would happen to the infrastructure, the property, and how it would be repurposed and put back into the market. We sure don't want a dormant building sitting there on our beautiful riverfront area.
You own the land, correct?
No, ma'am.
You do not?
No, ma'am. The casinos own each of their individual properties.
Okay. Would you like to have it back if that were part of the deal, that the city gets the land and you guys get to do something with it?
First comment is I would not think so, but that would have to be considered by the city council. What I would look for is that property to be sold to another company, if that were the case, and then remarket it, repurposed for another economic development project on the river.
Ms. Pam, you had mentioned that this was not a surprise to you, the findings of this report. I would imagine.
Well, Boomtown was a surprise. Diamond Jacks, we knew it had been on the possibility of relocating to South Louisiana last year. So knowing it was mentioned in the report, to me, it was not a surprise hearing that. Boomtown, my thinking, was a surprise.
So, but Boomtown's owned by now the same people that own Margaritaville. And if I'm a gambling owner, I would say I don't want two gambling companies in the same town. Would you kind of understand that?
Well, that was their decision to purchase it. They purchased these properties just beginning of this calendar year, closing on Margaritaville, Boomtown. They also purchased in South Louisiana the LaBerge in Lake Charles and the LaBerge in Baton Rouge. So possibly, maybe they have ideas of putting more capital improvements into these properties.
So later today, when you get to work, when you sit down with the mayor or whoever happens of some degree of importance, wander through the office and you have a cup of coffee and you start talking about this, what is it exactly that you discuss?
Well, frankly, our discussion needs to be with the casino managers and the ownership groups of these properties who have to make those major decisions. We'd like to be part of those decisions, and hopefully we'll influence that decision or what they do, and either remaining in Bossier City or repurposing that property if they were to leave.
But bluntly speaking, when you have that conversation with those managers, with those ownership groups, and they might say to you as a representative of Bossier City, what can you guys do to help? What do you say to them at that point?
Well, what we can do to help is simply help them market those two properties. If they have a potential buyer for those properties, we'd like to meet with them and share with them the good things that are happening in Bossier City and what we have planned in the future.
Pam, you obviously know Don Pearson is the Secretary of Economic Development. He's a Bossier guy. We're told by Ronnie Jones that his office commissioned this report. Do you have a conversation with him about where this report goes from here?
Well, we can. Obviously, this report goes back to the LED and then from there on to the legislature. I think that's why it was commissioned. It gives the elected officials an official report of what the market is in the state for gaming. And as the gentleman said, it's flat. What they do to improve it is what happens either legislatively of changing the laws that are on the books, and also improvements that the casino operators make individually to each of their property.
That's an interesting point you made, because what I said to Mr. Ronnie during our conversation last hour was the outlook of this report is not good for the gaming market in Shreveport and Bossier. That the report says the pie is limited, and the way we increase the piece of the pie for the remaining boats is to get rid of 2. What is it that Bossier City, or at the same time Shreveport, can do with the reticence, with the hesitation of the state legislature to really allow the casinos to grow? What is it? How do you guys deal with that?
Well, we would work with the gaming lobbyists, the gaming association that is out there that represents the gaming market. We don't want to do anything that's not in sync with what the operators would like to have. We feel like they probably want to expand their market, maybe lessen some of the restrictions, but those are legislative items that have to be voted on by the legislature and then passed by them and then operated by the gaming board.
Pam, we're talking to Pam Glorioso, CAO in Bossier City. I think you're probably the sharpest tool in the shed with regard to this room today. And I know you've known about Diamond Jacks possibly moving. Have you done any research? Will you be doing research on gambling operations that have closed before that have then been repurposed into something else? Have you seen other ideas, other things that have worked in other cities with these kinds of properties?
At this point, we've not, Aaron. We will look into that. We talked briefly with Diamond Jacks last year, earlier, when there was a possibility that property could be moving. And at that point, they were unsure what was going to be taking place with the legislation that was in discussion then. So, again, it's a private property. We will do everything we can as a public body to work with private industry to help them repurpose it and make it something that would be an economic tool for the community.
How hard does the loss of these jobs, and how many, I guess you don't know yet, but how hard does that hit Bossier?
Well, it hits not only Bossier, it hits the Shreveport-Bossier area. These people don't only just live in Bossier, they live all around the community. We look at a loss of revenue, and that's one of the things we as a community want to look at to see what we can do to help repurpose it, to replace that with another economic engine that has jobs to be created and sales tax and income to be generated from a new profit if they were to relocate.
Pam Glorioso, CAO, Bossier City. Thanks for joining us on such short notice. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Aaron. Bye-bye.